Alright, let's just get this game over with. Sonic Blast is the last of the Sonic games on the Game Gear and Master System, and one of the last classic games of this era as well. Now, I actually never fully played this game before this video, but I knew this game was going to be bad going into it. And let me tell you, after playing it, it's actually not bad, it's actually far worse than you can possibly imagine. I mean this with 100% sincerity when I say that Sonic Blast is the absolute worst Sonic game I've ever played. Never mind 06, Forces, or 4 Episode 1. This game is what night terrors are made of. It's very rare when I play a game that I have absolutely nothing positive to say about it. From the hideous graphics to the awful physics to the mediocre soundtrack, this game is just an unplayable mess. And this extends to the levels of the game as well. Yeah, you saw the thumbnail for this video. Not a single zone in this game is good. The quote-unquote best zone in the game is still a D tier. So, yeah, this is going to be a list of most awful to least awful. Let's just get through this kidney stone of a game and talk about the F tier zones. And yes, I said zones, because this game has not one, but 2 F tier stages. And if any of you are familiar with this game, I think you know exactly what's in last place. You all knew Blue Marine Zone was going to make it to the bottom of the list. This is the single worst level in any Sonic game I have ever played. And to be honest, I didn't think it would be that bad going into this game. Like, don't get me wrong, I knew it was going to be bad, but there was a part of me that was naively thinking, well, how bad could it possibly be? It's a Game Gear level. I'm sure it'll be annoying, but it'll just feel like a little blip in the radar by the end of the game. Little did I know that this would be one of the most painful levels I'd play in my life. Part of me believes I shouldn't have to explain why. Just showing the footage of this stage would be more than enough to explain why this level is awful. But, because I like to go in detail, I want to describe the many bad qualities of this stage. And honestly, I have no clue where to begin. Well, let's start by addressing the elephant in the room of this stage. The slowdown. Most of the level is played underwater, and because of how advanced the graphics are, you will experience slowdown for basically the entire stage. And it is just miserable trying to play a level that moves this slow. The other Game Gear games have slowdown too, but those games didn't have the disadvantage of having some of the most dysfunctional physics in the entire franchise. But that's not all. On top of being insanely slow, the level design is god-awful. The main gimmick with this stage involves these pipe mazes that you have to go through. That's annoying to begin with, but to add salt to the wound, they put these currents in certain areas that are very easy to come in contact with because of the awkward platforming and screen crunch. If you get anywhere near them, you'll be blown back to an earlier area and start the process anew. Act 2 in particular is a fucking nightmare to navigate. There are so many areas that lead you absolutely nowhere and increase the chance of you drowning and losing a life. Combine all that with other flaws like cheap enemy placement, a very annoyingly placed special stage ring in Act 2, and some of the most bland visuals in the series, and you have yourself an utterly joyless experience. Doesn't even have good music to save it. The only possible crumb of praise I can give to this stage is that going in these pipes does give you some air while underwater, but even then, the pipe mazes are still extremely annoying to go through. I didn't know a Sonic level this awful could possibly exist. This makes Labyrinth Zone look like Hydro City. It makes Wacky Workbench look like Chemical Plant. This stage gives me absolutely no joy whatsoever, and only drains the life out of you whenever you dare to play it. But I do have some good news and bad news. The good news is that for Sonic levels, this is rock bottom. Meaning there will never be a level before or after that could possibly be worse than this one. But the bad news is, I still have one more F tier stage to go in this list. What has my life come to? Now we move on to the other piece of torture in this dungeon of misery. Silver Castle Zone. Much like Blue Marine, this stage suffers from some awful navigation, mainly in Act 1. But instead of pipe mazes, this one decides to use teleporters that are activated by standing on these strange wheel platforms. Weird. Anyways, in Act 1, all you're doing is going into these teleporters, hoping that it'll lead you into the right path. There's hardly any skill in this stage, just trial and error until you find the right teleporters to go to. The other acts aren't as awful as they don't have the teleporter maze stuff, but they still suck in different ways. Act 2 has these yellow panels that make you move slower, as if the game wasn't slow enough. And it also has some of the worst placement of spikes I've seen in any game. Seriously, making this jump specifically without taking damage is impossible as Sonic. Knuckles can get through it with that pathetic glide of his. Speaking of spikes, there's also these spike walls that you run away from, I guess to add spectacle to the stage, or lack thereof. But you'll never see them coming on your first playthrough of this game, because almost every one of them is placed in spots where you can easily run into them. Why not have a wall to stop you before you enter these rooms? And even if you do remember where they are, you'll still most likely get hit by them anyway because of the terrible momentum of this game, making you slide in the spike's direction even when turning and... Christ! I hate this game! It's one of the worst I've ever played! That's not to mention this zone is where you really notice how bad the enemy placements are in this game. Sometimes they feel the need to put enemies in front of you while you're running away from the spikes. Who designed these stages? Okay. One last piece of criticism, otherwise I'm just gonna spend an entire month ranting and raving about how bad this game is. In Act 3, there's a teleporter that takes you to the boss. Now you would assume that there would be a teleporter at the top of the stage leading you to the boss. But no, it's the first one you go to, at the very beginning of the stage. So what's the point of the rest of this stuff in Act 3? To get more rings? Well, the boss isn't that hard to begin with anyway, as you'll later see, so just collect the rings you first see, then take a right to the teleporter. Fuck this stage, dude. This is easily the worst final level in the series so far. I'd be impressed if there was any final level that tops this one. The only reason this isn't at the bottom of the list is that at least you're not underwater. So good job, Silver Castle, for doing the bare minimum in order to not be the worst stage in the whole game. And now, I'm done with the 2 F-tier stages. We can now move on to the D-tier stages, which, keep in mind, is the highest tier this game's stages can possibly get to. It's not like Sonic Chaos, where most of those stages were C-tier since they at least have cool aesthetics and music despite the lack of difficulty. In this game, not only are the stages pathetically easy here, even more so than Chaos, but they don't even have good visuals or music to save them. Oh, and did I mention the controls being infinitely worse to handle than Chaos? Anyway, let's get to the first D-tier of this list. Honestly, is there anything I really have to say about this version of Green Hill Zone? This is by far the lamest first stage in the franchise, and the lamest rendition of Green Hill Zone, which, considering some of the renditions of this stage, that is saying a lot. All you do in Act 1 is hold right and jump like 2 or 3 times, and you'll beat the stage. That's it. There's literally no skill to this act. It doesn't even have any ground enemies. The only, and I do mean only, hazard that can possibly hit you while running is this weird spiky log, which I think is supposed to be like the spinning spiky bridge in the first game, but even then, you could jump over it easily. There are 2 elevated platforms, but they're only there just to give you more rings, which you'll find plenty of them playing normally, and there's a lake you can easily jump out of. Though there is a special stage ring, but the special stages in Act 1 are pointless since they only give you an extra life. Now Act 2 is different, because you hold left, then right, then left again, then make an easy jump to the goal. Whoa, now it's giving Angel Island a run for its money. It does have some loops that lead you to the lower floors of this stage, but not only is it hard to make the loops because of the clunky physics, but they're just pointless in general. Just jump down, you don't need to use this loop. Though to be fair, it does offer a slight bit more exploration, as there are upper paths in the middle and lower sections of the stage, with the one in the middle leading you to the special stage for the Chaos Emerald. But it's still an incredibly lame stage. At least Turquoise Hill had alternate paths, nice music, and jet shoes. This stage just has nothing going for it. I'm done with this one. Next. Red Volcano Zone. Okay, first of all, I'm not seeing that much red here. I'm seeing more so of a purple texture in this place. So already it's losing points for the misleading title. But more importantly, the stage itself isn't very impressive. Act 1 of this stage isn't much different from the previous Act 1s. You move forward and jump a few times. At least this one has some form of exploration from the top path, which you go up by using these weird spring robots. And it feels insanely clunky trying to control Sonic in the air, especially when you're trying to move backwards. Act 2 is a little better, but it still isn't good. I mean, this one at least has a little more room for exploration, but not enough to justify the sluggish nature of this stage. You're constantly running into these geysers due to the faulty level design of this game. The act does have a couple of mechanics, like these air pump platforms over lava that kinda reminds me of the cloudy platform enemies from Mega Man 6, But since it has the same ring system as Triple Trouble, where you only lose 10 rings when you get hit, it's easier and faster to just run over it. It also has these spin dash powered lifts like Lava Reef, but they just don't feel fun to use, and they're even pointless in a few areas. There's literally one in Act 2 that's over a path you could just jump down to. What's the point of that? It's also where you notice the collision issues. Since the loops are usually near the edges of these pools of lava, more often than not, you're gonna stop dead in your tracks, even if you seemingly have the momentum to go over them. Yeah, like I mentioned, the stage is just lame. Let's just get to the so-called best stage in the game, just so I can get this shit done. Yellow Desert is the best level in the game, and it's still bad. It probably has the most fitting title, not just because of the setting, but because of the fact that it has nothing to offer. Act 1 is pretty much the same as the first acts of Green Hill and Red Volcano. Just move right, jump a few times, and you'll make it to the goal. Once again, it has pointless upper paths that only contains rings. There's 2 pipes that lead you to the special stage, which, like I mentioned, is pointless in the first acts of these stages. At least this one has ground enemies. They aren't hard to deal with at all, but at least there's some kind of hazard on the ground. Yeah, Act 1 is very lame. Act 2 takes place in the pyramid. It's a little bit better than Act 1 because it has a bit more platforming, but it still isn't good. It's full of spikes which can sometimes be placed in inconvenient areas. There's a really cheap part where you go into an upper path and it just leads you into a wall of spikes. Why is that there? For the programmers to laugh at the player? It does give you these sand currents that makes you faster. They aren't in the stage that much, but at least it gives you a little bit of speed in this slog of the game. Near the end, there's these holes that you shift around in, acting as a puzzle. It's incredibly easy. All you do is hold left and you're out of it. Well, sort of. By jumping to the top right in the second stopping point, there's a special stage ring to get the Chaos Emerald. Nothing else to say here. Just a boring-ass desert stage. So yeah, in total, it's the least bad stage in Sonic Blast, but, like all the others, it still isn't very impressive. Okay, it's boss time. I'm not going to spend that much time talking about the bosses, because I just want to get this game over with. Like the stages, they're very lame. I mean, credit where credit's due, they aren't the worst bosses in the franchise, but they're unimpressive nonetheless. Also, like 3D Blast, they don't have names, so once again I have to name them stuff like Green Hill's boss. That sucks, but so does this game. Let's get to the bosses. Number 6 is Blue Marine's boss. It's in Blue Marine Zone. That's all you need to know. You're underwater while Robotnik shoots harpoons, and he has an awful hitbox. This sucks, moving on. Number 5, the final boss. Like previous final bosses, you can only get to this one by collecting all the Chaos Emeralds. They give you 99 rings for this fight, probably because they knew how annoying this boss can be. Basically, you have to jump on the platform and try to hit him at the top, which is annoying to begin with because of the screen crunch and these stupid drills. I mean, it's appropriate to end a game like this with a crappy boss. Number 4, Red Volcano's boss. Robotnik jumps in the air and tries to hit you with this mace attack while you're on a moving platform. Once again, trying to hit him can be annoying sometimes because the hitbox is pretty tight. It's a little bit better with Knuckles, but it's still lame. Number 3, Green Hill's boss. All he does here is stay on the opposite end of the screen, throw this metal boomerang at you 2 times, and then move to the other side. It's pathetically easy. What more do I have to say? Number 2, Yellow Desert's boss. All he does is use his staff to try and stab you. The only reason it's up here is because of the random but funny reference to Sun Wukong from Journey to the West. And number 1, Silver Castle's boss. The best boss in the game. And I have to give credit where credit's due. It's not a bad idea. Basically, you're running on this wheel, moving this mirror to reflect the lasers that Robotnik blasts at you. It's actually a pretty creative idea for a boss fight. It almost reminds me of a Sonic CD boss in a way. It's still piss easy, mind you, but this is the only thing in the game that I would give a C tier. So, congrats Sonic Blast, you actually managed to get something above a D tier. And I'm finally done with that nightmare of a game. But not only is that game over and done with, this also marks the conclusion of the classic era of Sonic games, which means we finally enter the adventure/advance era of the Sonic series. Now, I'm very excited to go through these games, because this era contains some of my favorite games in the series, and of course, we're starting with the first proper 3D Sonic game, Sonic Adventure. Now this might take a little longer to make than usual, because not only do these stages have a lot of content to go over, but some of these stages play differently based on the characters you play as. You'll see how I'll rank these stages when we get to that point. Until then, have a good day, and see you guys then.